The Mongol Empire was one of the largest empires in world history, stretching across the vast territories of the Eurasian continent. This dominance was built on their exceptional military tactics and advanced organizational capabilities, and Kublai Khan, in particular, pursued an aggressive campaign of unification in Asia by incorporating China and Korea. His ambitions in Japan were driven not only by expansion, but also by an intent to integrate East Asia into the Mongol Empire's trade network, thereby securing economic gains. Furthermore, for Kublai Khan, Japan's existence as an independent nation within Asia was a matter of imperial prestige. Kublai Khan first sent a national letter to Japan, requesting their submission. However, the Kamakura shogunate ignored this demand. At the time, Japan had developed a unique culture and political system influenced by China, yet distinct, with the Kamakura shogunate reinforcing governance by the warrior class, showing no intention of yielding to external pressure. This stance stemmed from the warrior class's pride and sense of independence. They saw submission as a threat to their dignity. In response to this rejection, Kublai resolved to invade Japan by force, launching the first Mongol invasion, known as the Bunei Campaign. In 1274, Mongol forces, around 9,000 strong, landed at Hakata Bay. This army included Mongol, Han Chinese, and Korean soldiers, an unprecedented sight for the Japanese samurai. The Mongols introduced unfamiliar weaponry and tactics, including gunpowder bombs called teppo, which created explosions and scattering fragments, throwing the battlefield into confusion. The Mongol army employed organized, collective combat aimed at rapid suppression, differing from the Japanese samurai's one-on-one, honor-based combat style. This contrast led to a severe clash. The local samurai of Kyushu fought a desperate defensive battle, using the terrain to resist the Mongol forces. The terrain around Hakata posed challenges for the Mongols, with local warriors taking advantage of mountains and rivers to gain advantageous positions, inflicting losses on the invading forces. The fierce fighting continued through the night, with the Mongols maintaining superiority with their weaponry and tactics, while the Japanese samurai held their ground with unity. The Japanese drew spiritual strength from their strong sense of duty to protect their homeland and families. As the battle prolonged, a sudden storm struck. This tempest destroyed much of the Mongol fleet, forcing their retreat. For the Japanese on the battlefield, this natural disaster was seen as divine assistance. Without this storm, Japan might have fallen to the Mongol forces, and so the people believed it to be divine protection. This storm became the origin of the kamikaze legend, symbolizing the protective spirit over Japan. This event would be a lasting source of spiritual resilience for the Japanese, and the kamikaze legend would be retold for generations. 7 years after the Bunei campaign, Kublai Khan again planned an invasion, assembling an even larger force in light of the previous failure. In the 1281 Koan campaign, the Mongol Empire mobilized approximately 140,000 troops against Japan, forming a massive multinational force that included soldiers from the Mongol army, surrendered soldiers of the Southern Song, and support units from Korea. This invasion marked the greatest crisis Japan had ever faced. The Kamakura shogunate, learning from past experience, constructed defensive barriers along Hakata Bay and mobilized warriors from across the nation. These barriers, made of stone, were built by local samurai, united in defending against the Mongol landing. This defensive strategy, utilizing the terrain along Hakata Bay, created significant obstacles for the Mongol army and bolstered Japanese advantage. As the vast Mongol army approached, another storm struck Japan. This storm devastated the Mongol fleet, sinking numerous ships and scattering soldiers into the sea. The Mongol army was once again forced to retreat, and the second invasion ended in failure. The kamikaze came to be revered as divine protection over Japan, a term that would carry a special meaning throughout Japan's history. These repulsed invasions elevated the status of the samurai within Japan, solidifying their pride as the nation's spiritual foundation. However, the shogunate faced significant financial strain, exacerbating domestic dissatisfaction. After the invasions, a period of social unrest, Japan saw the rise of new religious ideas that began to spread among the people. Notably, monks like Honen, Shinran, Nichiren, Ipin, Dogen, and Eisai each developed unique teachings, providing spiritual support to the people. These monks offered the teachings of Buddha not only to the aristocracy and privileged classes, but also to commoners, offering solace to those suffering from war. Honen advocated for salvation through the Nembutsu, believing that devotion to Amida Buddha would lead to rebirth in the Pure Land. Shinran expanded on Honen's teachings, developing the idea that even evil people were worthy of salvation, offering hope to those marginalized by society. Nichiren promoted the Lotus Sutra as the sole path to salvation, spreading his teachings throughout Japan. Their teachings became integral to people's lives and spirits, making new Buddhism an essential aspect of Japanese life. Thus, through the hardships of the Mongol invasions, the strengthening of the samurai class, and the spread of new Buddhism, the Kamakura period saw the establishment of new social order and values. The Buddhist philosophy of the Kamakura period evolved from traditional teachings requiring rigorous practice into more accessible salvation for common people. Traditional Buddhism held that enlightenment was attained through strict discipline, but Honen and Shinran's teachings claimed that anyone could be saved simply by chanting Namu Amida Butsu. This concept, called Senju Nembutsu, marked a departure from privileged Buddhism, offering new spiritual support to the common people. Shinran's idea, Akunin Shoki Setsu, the doctrine of evil people as the true subjects of salvation, greatly impacted people at the time. This belief that even sinners could be saved through Amida's power was a beacon of hope, especially for those suffering at society's bottom. This revolutionary idea gained wide acceptance among the people of the Kamakura period, where differences in class and status were stark. The popularity of salvation-focused teachings coincided with a period of societal hardship, with people struggling from wars and famines. For the common people, with little time or resources for intensive practice, the idea of salvation through mere recitation was deeply appealing and made Buddhism more accessible to the public. While Honen and Shinran's faith in Amida spread, Nichiren claimed that only the Lotus Sutra could provide true salvation. He encouraged chanting Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, establishing a passionate style of propagation known as the chant school. Nichiren's fervent faith, despite often facing persecution, garnered widespread support. Nichiren's teachings spread across Japan, forming communities of believers. Central to his teaching was the idea that faith in the Lotus Sutra led to salvation, along with shikobuku, an active form of proselytization aimed at converting others. Followers of Nichiren, chanting Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, sought self-transformation and applied his teachings in daily life. With the spread of Nichiren's teachings, people found a renewed sense of purpose and self-worth, and Buddhism transcended its religious role to influence Japanese culture and morals. The new Kamakura Buddhism did not only provide spiritual relief during the chaotic period, but also left a lasting influence on subsequent eras. From the Muromachi period onward, Buddhism continued to gain popularity among the common people, shaping societal values. Teachings by Honen, Shinran, Nichiren, and Ipin encouraged the people to adopt a self-sufficient attitude and maintain faith in daily life. The spirit of Kamakura Buddhism was passed down as the foundation of samurai society and common culture, influencing the Sengoku and Edo periods. The doctrine of salvation in Kamakura Buddhism received immense support as a psychological anchor for people struggling through turbulent times. As this teaching became a part of commoners' daily lives, Japanese Buddhism diversified further, evolving into a unique system of belief. The influence of Kamakura Buddhism extended beyond the common people, deeply impacting the samurai class. Given that samurai often faced life-or-death situations, they were particularly drawn to Buddhism's teachings of posthumous salvation. For instance, Zen Buddhism's emphasis on serenity and impermanence aligned well with the samurai ethos. Zen Buddhism, which emphasized self-discipline and seated meditation for enlightenment, resonated with the samurai's values of physical and mental discipline. Zen's focus on calmness and action without ego provided a spiritual foundation, aiding in battlefield composure and self-discipline. Consequently, Zen Buddhism gained protection from the Kamakura shogunate and spread, later becoming a spiritual pillar in samurai society. As new Buddhism spread, societal values shifted throughout Japan. In the previous era, Buddhism was largely an exclusive privilege of the upper classes, but with the advent of Kamakura Buddhism, it became a more accessible faith. The belief that anyone can be saved promoted a more egalitarian perspective, embedding equal values within society. Kamakura Buddhism also promoted the belief that all individuals are different but have the right to salvation. This arose as a response to the turbulent period, where many sought salvation regardless of status or background. This new Buddhist spirit would later become an ethical foundation in Japan, deeply rooting itself in people's hearts. Kamakura Buddhism also influenced cultural and artistic fields. Zen Buddhism, in particular, contributed significantly to aesthetics like calligraphy, tea ceremony, and gardening. Zen monks expressed themselves through ink painting and poetry, seeking harmony with nature and simplicity, a distinctive beauty celebrated in the arts and teachings of the Muromachi period. Through the Mongol invasions, the Kamakura period saw the birth of a new form of Buddhism and a new ethical foundation, both of which profoundly shaped Japanese society for generations. Kamakura Buddhism, born from a period of hardship, offered salvation to all, profoundly impacting Japanese society and culture.